listening to the Ecosystem Approach show. I'm Jason.
And I'm Patricia. Tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Transformation Talk Radio.
We discovered that human potential is severely limited when you program humans like a machine, which is standard practice today for self-improvement.
The Ecosystem Approach teaches you how to uncover your infinite potential by using natural methods that are truly revolutionary. Join us now for the Ecosystem Approach show. People come to us when they have trauma or have been traumatized. Often, they try to program or manipulate themselves out of bad feelings and the hurt and the pain, but at best, it's just a temporary fix. But working with energy of trauma is always helpful, even if it can't be felt in the moment. Even if you are not feeling traumatized right now, this is important energy information for you. And we recorded a meditation in the third segment of the show that you can use over and over and over again to help you with your trauma. Stay tuned. We are married intuitives with over 20 years experience who created the Ecosystem Approach for you. This is much different because we see human beings as ecosystems that need to be restored instead of programmed. We show you how to take an energy approach for internal discovery that is rational, practical, and useful for everyday life. Jason, yeah, this is a big one, by the way, I believe, because no one is immune to some sort of trauma at all.
Yes.
So,
and it's one of the most frequent thing that we work with.
That is absolutely correct. And I have to say, people say quite often, well, I should be able to handle this, or yes, I should be able to handle that kind of thing. So my question is, Jason, what is the most important misconception about trauma that most people don't even realize?
Trying to measure it or rate it relative to other people or other traumas.
Sure.
Trauma is always personal to you and
yes,
what is happening in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It is always relative to what happened in the context of your life.
That is correct.
So when people come to us, almost invariably they say, well, I shouldn't feel so bad about this because, there's a war going on in Israel. There's a war, in Ukraine,
right?
The horrific views and things that are happening around the world are awful.
Yes,
and so we try and manipulate ourselves and say, well, that shouldn't be such a big deal.
And meaning our trauma shouldn't be such a big deal. Those other things are bigger than my trauma,
and that you can talk yourself out of trauma.
Yes.
And
by
guys,
the way,
guys, if you've ever tried to talk a woman. And this is very sexist of me. So if you've ever tried to, and men are the one that fall into this all the time.
Okay.
It's a big rut in the road and they always hit it. Okay.
Yes.
If you've ever tried to talk someone out of their emotions, it doesn't work. So when you go online and say, what do I do about, I'm feeling traumatized, or I'm feeling fearful, I'm feeling guilty, whatever it is,
scared.
And they say, okay, well, tell yourself, be logical with yourself. Hey, that doesn't work. I want to stand up and raise my hand and say, being logical with emotions doesn't work. And if it does, it's just temporary, because what you do is you force yourself to get a hold of yourself. Like, someone's freaking out and they slap them in the movies,
right?
And they say, oh, okay, now I'm better. Well, that might help you for like 2 seconds,
right?
Or 5 seconds, or maybe even an hour. But after that energy,
trauma did not go away.
Yes. And that's what we see.
Yes.
People come to us because they've been trying to do these things, whether slap themselves or talk themselves out of it, or manipulate themselves and say, oh, it's not that bad.
Sure.
You'll be okay, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then it's not.
No.
And then that's when we see them, or most of the people that we see now have been doing this for so long, they already know that.
Yeah.
So they're working on the stuff already. So that's the biggest misconception.
Okay.
Don't rate your trauma. Don't try to see the big picture. Trauma is always personal, so don't judge it by saying to yourself, this shouldn't be such a big deal.
Right.
And
or that person shouldn't be, if they're judging someone else for having trauma, that person shouldn't be so have so much drama about whatever happened.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, how many people have been told, and I know this makes us sound old, but how many times have you had parents that tell you, well, you should appreciate that food because there are people starving and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Or they try and manipulate your feelings. It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So logic doesn't work. Comparisons don't work, which is a form of logic.
Yes.
Redirecting your attention. Now I help with a baby. Don't think about that anymore. Think about this over here.
Yeah, look at this. Yeah.
And that doesn't get rid of the energy.
No.
And classifying it and then diminishing its importance. Oh, that's just about this. Yeah. It's no big deal. Right. So therefore you shouldn't feel the way you do.
Well, and if anybody could see things the way we see things, we understand that there can be two people standing in the same, side by side, see the same tragedy happen, and their traumas will be different.
Yes.
Because of their story.
And one person may not have trauma.
And the other one will have extreme trauma. That's correct.
And we just saw this movie last night, and I'm gonna look up what the name of it was. It was on Netflix.
Okay.
But she was traumatized because she bought 2 goldfish. Her therapist told her to have something she can take care of.
Right.
So she bought 2 goldfish, and one of them died, and she was traumatized by the death of that goldfish.
Right.
Now, in the next segment, we'll talk about why that trauma happened, because if you look at her emotional story, which you start to uncover if you watch the movie, it's a weird movie, but it was okay. Yeah, it was okay. So
yes, definitely.
So how it connects to you is a big deal.
Correct.
Here's the other thing.
Okay.
Timing is a big deal.
And what do you mean by that?
So if you're 16 and you break up with your partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever you call them, okay? You're in love in 16 and you break up. It could be very traumatic for some. When a breakup when you're 35 may not be as traumatic.
Correct.
Again, it depends on the person, but timing makes a big deal.
Yes.
I know that my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. She was going through the treatment when she was 14. She was in middle school.
Yeah.
What was traumatic was losing her hair.
Yeah.
And wearing a wig and getting the comments from everybody, about the wig. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
It wasn't the cancer. It was the hair falling out,
Yes. Yes.
So everything, the timing now as an adult, it might be completely different for her. So,
right.
And speaking of that cancer, I think what's also a really important point is that my first wife, her mother had died of cancer 7 years earlier. Then when she was diagnosed, she had the same cancer in the same place at the same stage, and the doctors told us that was coincidence. We knew that wasn't the case. That traumatized me.
Yes.
But when we told her,
meaning your daughter,
yes, it wasn't traumatic. In fact, it was a relief. She said, it was like she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I always knew I'd get cancer like my mom.
And I remember, I happened to be home and I got a follow-up phone call from Stanford, if I can say that. And they asked me how she was doing, if she was still alive, all those sort of things. And I knew some
because we had refused treatment.
Right.
They had prescribed 6 cycles of chemotherapy and we stopped
at 4.
Yeah.
Right. And so they were doing follow-up questions and so forth. And this is where the reason we're talking about this is trauma. And so when Jason came home from wherever he was, I said, "Oh, I just got this phone call, blah, blah, blah." And they asked me all these questions and he said, oh, then maybe you could talk to his daughter. And I said, me? And he said, yeah, maybe you could get her to talk about this a little bit so you could understand it a little bit more. And in other words, he knew my abilities and at that time and all of those things. Well, one of the best things is that the conversation that I had with her actually started an amazing bond of that she could trust me. And it was awesome in so many ways, because to this day, there are times where she'll call me and go, what do I do about this? What do I, that kind of thing. And the point that I'm getting at is that when you have an understanding of the energy of a situation, and when we had that conversation, I got a bigger understanding of it.
The emotional story.
Then I could ask questions. And if it was just her and I, then there wouldn't be any more drama. She could just talk, and we could talk in a conversational way.
She never liked to talk about it because she didn't like other people's reactions. So she didn't want to talk to a stranger about it.
Exactly.
She would never do that.
And to this day, she and I can still talk about so many things that so many others that she knows cannot talk about.
Yeah.
So it was actually a very positive thing. So with all of that said, Jason, what is the quick tip of this segment?
Trauma is always personal and unique to the person. Trying to manage trauma and rate its seriousness is a form of programming. It doesn't work.
Correct.
However, working with the energy of trauma is the most direct and efficient way to overcome it. Because it's an energy, it doesn't respond to logic and manipulation.
Right.
It responds to energy work that removes it in a very specific way. Trauma is always different depending on when it occurs. Timing and the state of your life has a big effect on whether circumstances are traumatic or not.
And by the way, that is true. In the next segment, we're going to talk about the most important part about overcoming trauma, which is naming the feelings so you can remove the energy of it. This is an ongoing process that you'll have to do as you move through your trauma. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show, unscripted, with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the most important part of overcoming trauma, which is naming the feelings so you can remove the energy of it all. This is an ongoing process that you'll have to do as you move through the trauma. Jason, what do you mean the process of naming the trauma is a, quote, ongoing process?
We think in terms of black and white because we've been programmed like we're machines. If you have a problem, you do this, and then the problem goes away.
Right.
No, that's almost never true, and there's been so many people that have come to us and said, well, I should be done with this by now.
Oh yeah.
Or even if when they work with us, they'll arbitrarily say, well, I've been clearing fear, for example, which is a big part of trauma.
Yes.
For such a long time, sometimes 5 and 10 years with some of our clients that we have now.
Yes.
And it's not the fear. The fear is just the top level. We have, and people don't understand this, but we understand it because we see energy. That is, we not only have fear when we have trauma, but we have fear that is almost like I call it emotional algorithm, which makes me sound really geeky, but it's like a recipe. Feelings sometimes people get afraid and then they get angry.
Yes.
And then they blow up and then they feel guilty. Well, that's a whole emotional algorithm, or that's a whole recipe.
That is right.
So it's not just the fear.
Right.
It's having the fear. Usually that's not perceived. Then they get angry. And then they feel guilty because they got angry.
Yeah.
And usually when they got angry, they say things they shouldn't have, that sort of thing.
Right.
We have these whole long chains of emotions.
Correct.
And those are very unique to the individual. Yes. And uncovering those is what's so effective when we work with trauma as we work with energy. And that's what we do using the ecosystem approach.
That is correct.
So um, we see a trauma as an energy. So when we look at someone, we can perceive that trauma. Sometimes, even people come to us and they ask us, well, what do you see? And we often find a way to talk about that trauma.
That's correct.
And because it's an energy, and we see those energies both big and small.
Correct.
The things that traumatize people. Here's the thing that is little known about trauma.
Okay.
The things that traumatize a person is based on their emotional story, and it's connected to that story. It's also negative energy that's attached to your essence. We've talked about that many times in these shows. And the little traumas that happen to you are specifically designed to get the strongest, baddest reaction. So
true.
If you have no fear of spiders,
right,
you're not going to be traumatized. The world around you is not going to organize so that spiders come into your path all the time.
That's correct.
This is appropriate for Halloween too. So but if you're terrified of spiders,
for whatever reason, for whatever that holds in your story,
some people say, well, oh my gosh, you might see a spider and someone's freaking out. And say, okay, what's the big deal?
Right.
Well, it's one of those little traumas. It's no different than the goldfish that we talked about in the last segment.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And the point is that dark energy finds your vulnerability
and exploits it
to the max.
Yes.
We've seen this over and over and over again. Yes. It knows, being attached to your essence, how to magnify an issue to create the biggest response.
Right.
So when someone outside of you says, oh, you shouldn't feel bad about that, or you shouldn't be traumatized, it was just a goldfish, what's the big deal?
Yes.
That's not true. And by the way, in the movie, we found out later, they let you in on the story that her mother had died.
Yes.
That she was a prodigy because I think she graduated Harvard at
16.
So she was always an outcast in school. Her mother died, and her dad moved away and was seeing another woman that she, in a place that she didn't like.
Right.
So, the goldfish was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes. And what it did is it opened up the doors for the traumas of her past.
Yes.
Of the losses of her past.
Yes. So one of the things I want to talk about, and we don't talk about this enough, but people ask us, well, how do we know all this about trauma? How do we happen to know? What about a psychologist that's been studying PTSD?
Right.
They study the effect of energy.
They didn't study the energy.
The energy is the root.
Yes.
And since we can see it, that's how we perceive it. And that's when we've been doing this for 25 years, our experience is seeing it and then seeing it, how it affects people.
Correct.
And that's a big deal.
It is.
There's a difference between seeing something and believing in it. So in other words, you may be a psychologist and believe in psychology.
Correct.
Okay. But I struggle with that perspective when you believe in something, because it's like you're accepting everybody else's frame about how that works.
Yes.
And I've met a lot of psychologists that have been really sharp and really intuitive and kind of know this already.
Correct.
But there's some that just go by rote, and it's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that because we see it, that's how we process trauma.
Yes.
That's how we know what to do with trauma. And it's sort of like past life information.
Okay.
People say, do you believe in past life? Well, I don't like to say that, because then I accept a whole body of knowledge that's out there that I may not agree with.
Well, and for the most part, because it's been so put down.
Yes.
That's
discredited.
Discredited. That was the word I was looking for. Yes, exactly.
But we see past life information, energy that's past life information. Do we believe in it? No. what we believe in is what we see.
Yes.
And that's the difference between what we do and how we use our
Right.
intuition based on a lot of other
Right.
other people. So
Right.
just for what it's worth.
So, you know what, Jason, talk about your whole life trauma for just a moment.
Well, you have to look at your emotional story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for me, my emotional story had to do with being criticized and witnessing the fighting between my mom and my dad, being controlled as opposed to being allowed to be who I am.
Be the free thinker that you are.
Yes.
Yes.
And what I needed, and also living in the shame and secrets because my dad was mentally ill. He had an undiagnosed mental illness.
Right. Right.
And
by the way, it wasn't diagnosed completely because he wouldn't go and have any testing or anything like that.
He refused. Yeah.
He refused.
Yeah. So for me, authority was always a struggle because my dad was very dogmatic. You know, these are the rules. You have to do this.
And don't you dare step over the line.
Yes. So when my daughter had the cancer that we were just talking about, and they said I had to confront the establishment, so to speak, because she was 14 at the time, and we refused medical treatment. The doctor went to Child Protective Services in California and said she'll die if she doesn't get this treatment.
Right.
Well, you know, she just had two of my
beautiful grandchildren.
Beautiful grandchildren, and at 40, and which was a high risk pregnancy. The gynecologist was amazed because she did so well.
Right.
You know,
in other words, both births were quick and rather extraordinary.
Yes. So, you know, I had to confront my own insecurity when a doctor tells me, an authority tells me that my daughter's going to die at 14 because I'm not making her get this treatment. You know, it's that was PTSD for me. That was trauma for me.
Right.
You know, for her, it wasn't traumatized. To her, it was freeing. Like, yeah, I got power now. You know, at 14. Yeah, they always think they know what it.
Let's call that a teenager and leave it at that.
Yes.
But you know, there's one more little part to this story. The reason they didn't take your daughter away or couldn't do anything about it was because there was a form of a legal loophole in it, because the treatment that she had was experimental.
Yes, we had signed a statement that this was experimental and we would hold them harmless. And the people from CCS said, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say she's going to die if she doesn't have the treatment, or that if something happens, that, you know, you're not responsible. So that was a good thing. And I had forgotten that and that sort of thing. But that's right. The point of this was that it was traumatic for me because I had to confront those power structures where it wasn't for her.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
She knew intuitively.
She did. And by the way, she's very intuitive.
That she wasn't going to die.
Yeah.
So
she did.
And this was the right course for her.
She did. So absolutely. That was part of that conversation that we've had ongoing for the last few years.
So here's the point. Okay.
Thank you.
To work with the energies of a specific trauma, you have to be able to name them, call them out in a clearing statement, which is what we're going to show you how to do in the next segment. Right. If you have no idea what they are, you can clear numbness. That's always the go-to.
Yes.
And then, you know, I don't know how I feel. Yeah.
That's right.
You know, I'm
confusion.
I've got this trauma, but I don't know how I feel.
Right.
Right. And most people struggle to name fear, anger, hopelessness. They don't use those words.
Yes.
So.
All right. And by the way, they think that they're being weak if they do use those words.
Yes.
And the truth is, weakness is also an energy.
Yes.
So, Jason, what are the quick tips of this segment?
As intuitives, we see trauma as a collection of negative or bad energies that are attached to someone that continues to attract traumas that are specific or unique to the individual.
Correct.
This trauma gets bigger and can create physical illness and emotional symptoms like PTSD. Often, it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It gets bigger and bigger until the problem becomes physically or emotionally necessary to deal with. Trauma is often the source of these problems.
Correct. In the next segment, we're going to do a short meditation to help you deal with your trauma that is personal to you and something you can do over and over again to help you in your life. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show, unscripted, with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to do a short meditation to help you deal with your trauma. That is personal to you and something you can use over and over again to help you in your life. Jason, how is the meditation going to help with trauma?
Here's what we're going to ask you in the meditation. We're going to ask you to name the trauma. It can be very vague, like car accident, war, divorce, disease, like you could say my cancer, whatever, my cancer diagnosis, that's more specific. You can be more specific if you have those words. If you don't, that's okay. And then we're going to ask you to name your feelings. If you have no idea how you feel about this trauma, start with numbness. And we do that in the meditation. And Sarah, we're about to ask you to start it. So this meditation you can use over and over again, and we're going to have the link to it in our newsletter, and we'll tell you how to sign up for that afterwards. So, Sarah, whenever you're ready. This is a trauma meditation. Here we go. Take in a deep breath. Hold it. Let it out slowly. Feel the relaxation going all through your body. Let's name your trauma. Is it from war? Is it a car accident? Maybe a divorce? Is it a specific disease or illness? Maybe it's just the diagnosis of an illness. This is your time. So take a minute. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the trauma from, and name your trauma. Gather up that trauma, blow it into the processor right now. Then let's start with your feelings. And to eliminate any feelings of numbness I have about those feelings, any difficulty I have or numbness that keeps me from naming those feelings. Take a breath. And to eliminate any fear that I have of uncovering those feelings. Take a breath. The fear that I have of what those feelings will expose to me, the pain that it will expose to me, the hurt that it will expose. Take that hurt and pain that I'm afraid of and put it in the processor right now. Take a breath. See what feelings are coming up now. Do you have fear? Name that fear. Fear of getting in another car accident, maybe. Name that fear now. And to eliminate, name it and blow it into the processor. If you still don't know, just clear the numbness to the feelings, the numbness that keeps me from naming those feelings. Take a breath. Here we go again. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the feelings I have around my trauma, the fears. Name that fear or fears right now. Blow it into the processor. Maybe there's hopelessness. Name that hopelessness, my hopelessness that I'll ever be able to do anything to keep myself from another car accident. Name your hopelessness right now. Maybe it's powerlessness, and to eliminate the powerlessness that I have that says there's nothing I can do to keep myself from these awful feelings. Take a breath and blow those awful feelings into the processor. If you can't name them, just call it numbness and go blow that numbness into the processor. And to eliminate all the pain that I'm in. Name that pain if you can. From the divorce, from the car accident, from war, whatever it is, name it right now. And to eliminate that pain, name it, blow it into the processor right now. And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see trauma accumulates. It's based on many, many different feelings. So I know that the more I do this meditation, the more feelings I'll expose. And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that this meditation is cumulative, and that the more I do it, the more I can expose of this trauma. Take a breath. And to eliminate whatever I'm feeling right now. And if it's nothing, clear numbness. Take a breath. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the feelings that I'm having right now. Name those feelings. Feel the relief from some of the hurt and pain. If it's still there, do this meditation again. Okay.
Jason, what is the quick tip for this segment?
The biggest benefit of using the ecosystem approach is for clearing trauma, is the ability to be specific with the clearing statements. It's never enough to use the generic emotion like fear, but it's better to clear how that fear affects you in a variety of ways. People always ask us why we seem to clear the same emotion over and over again, but for every generic emotion like fear, there's infinite ways that fear applies to a person uniquely, which keeps the trauma in place. We are programmed to think think like machines, where we fix a part and then everything is okay. But as humans, trauma is layering and many negative emotions that are very specific and unique for each individual.
Yes. And I recommend highly to anyone who's listening or even watching, do this at least twice, for the simple fact of you will see and feel different things each time. It's pretty awesome. We don't realize how much negative energy we have collected through the years.
Exactly. So we take just a second and show them how to clear, and then we're going to do.
Well, that's just exactly what that was my line.
Hey, okay, you have it. So
there you go.
It's very simple. Removing negative energy. We do this process. You probably heard this before, but you can stand, sit, walk, lay down. You can be doing something else. We do it all the time.
I do it when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm taking a shower, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we
even
always
going for a walk with the dogs.
Yes,
all the time.
We do it all the time. Doing something else, and you just say it to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud. You can. Some people like to do that, but you don't have to. And so when we say, I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate. When you say eliminate, say whatever it is, whether it's veils and illusions, barriers, specific emotions, fear, anxiety, gather that up from your tips of your toes, have it come out either your heart, you could come out your gut, and come out of your top of your head, wherever you want to have it come out, and then blow it into the processor. Sierra's going to show you a picture of the processor now and in the next segment too. And you just put it in the top in your imagination. Correct. It gets processed, comes out in the front as neutral, and go for another one. Exactly. It's that simple.
Exactly. So stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to help you remove trauma energy and the veils and illusions so you can see your trauma more specifically, so you can be more effective working with your personal trauma. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia, and you're listening to Transformation Talk Radio. This is the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason, and I'm Patricia. And in this segment, we're going to help you remove trauma energy. I should say that again. Remove trauma energy and the veils and illusions so you can see your trauma more specifically, so you can be more effective working with your personal trauma. In other words, getting rid of it. So with that said, Jason,
here we go. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that trauma is an energy, and naming and removing those energies is the most effective way to handle trauma.
Take a breath and throw that trauma away.
Gather up the veils and illusions in this one.
Yes, excuse me. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to shorten it up just a little bit. So, and to eliminate the stress and anxiety and overwhelm that I have that is related to my trauma or traumas, regarding where I'm at today. Nice and easy. Pick it up. You don't need it. Throw it away. Stress, anxiety, overwhelm. And Jason?
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that trying to manage or rate the seriousness of my trauma doesn't work.
Yes. Take a breath.
Grab those veils and illusions.
Throw them away.
Throw them in the processor.
There you go. And to eliminate the compulsion to use formulas and worldly advice to work with trauma instead of focusing on the energies of the traumas. Take a breath. Throw it away. Compulsions, formulas. There you go. Jason?
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that the traumas are personal and can't be judged or compared to others. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Take a breath. Throw it away. And to eliminate the barriers so I can see that trauma is a form of dark, negative energy that is designed to exploit your greatest vulnerabilities. It's one of the things that I found personally. Nice and easy. Pick up that negative energy right now. You don't need it anymore. Take a breath and throw it away.
People are traumatized by things that don't connect with them in a deep level.
Yes.
It's the stuff that does. So,
yes.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that traumas never come from one event. It's always an accumulation of many smaller traumas in a lifetime, and sometimes even in past lives.
Yes.
Take a breath.
Yeah. And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that my trauma is not superficial, and it requires that I go deep into my emotional story for true healing. Nice and easy. Take a breath and blow it out.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that PTSD is just one way traumas are expressed. Yeah. They can also manifest with physical disease, relationship issues, money issues, just being unhappy and depression, all sorts of things.
Yes. Take a breath and blow it out. And to eliminate the veils and illusions so I can see that clearing numbness is always a great first step to identify the specific emotions that are part of your trauma. Nice and easy. Take a breath and blow it out.
And to eliminate the veils and illusions, so you can see that you should never judge your trauma to be too small or insignificant, because the energy of it remains to build up over time and become a huge difficulty for you sometime later.
Yes.
Take a breath. Take those veils and illusions.
Throw them away.
Throw them in the processor.
Yes. So, and to eliminate the feeling that clearing trauma is taking too long because it seems like you're removing the same energy over and over again, but it's the specifics of those energies that is important. Nice and easy. Take a breath and blow it out. Jason, should we activate life force?
Let's do that.
Here we go. All right. Follow along, everyone. I direct all my resources in all dimensions to activate life force energy, so I can use life force energy for the clarity, awareness, and objectivity that I need, even if my trauma is emotional. Nice and easy. Pull in that life force energy. Let it go to the tips of your toes. Stop it right there. Ask it to turn around and come back up your body and throw all those negative energies that are connected to it into the processor. Jason?
And to activate life force, so I can have hope to always work with my trauma in a positive way.
Yes.
Take a breath.
And blow it out. And to activate life force, so I can trust that working with energies are the key to effectively removing traumas. Remember, traumas are energies. It works. Nice and easy. Pull in that life force and throw away the trauma. You don't need it anymore.
And to activate life force, so I can decide to use my knowledge of my emotional story to specifically remove the energies of my trauma. Take a breath.
And throw away the negative energies. And the last one for life force, and to activate life force, so I can be happy and healthy, have clarity, awareness, and objectivity, see any trauma that I have as an energy, and know that I can name it, I can get rid of it, and I can be better and enjoy my life easier by doing and removing those negative energies for anything and everything that is affecting me today. Nice and easy. Pull in that life force and throw away negative energies. Jason, what are we going to talk about next week?
We had scheduled this previously, and then we had some internet problems, so we did a rerun.
Okay.
But it's channeling Uranus, and what's exciting about Uranus is it's the root for the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
But it's also an energy that you can use for creativity. And if you're trying to problem solve anything, Uranus is the energy to go to.
And I could say, even processing some sort of trauma.
Yes.
You can use this energy for that. It'll really help you understand.
Well, the benefit of Uranus is that it has a love of humanity, but it's more aloof emotionally, interpersonally.
Yeah.
So usually when you get in trouble with trauma, it's because you're too emotional and you're not able to see it objectively.
I have no idea what you mean by that.
So,
I know I'm making fun, but this works, everyone. It's fantastic.
So it's great for thinking outside the box.
Yes.
Be sure and listen next week. So
well, and I want to say, we don't say this enough. You know what, everybody that's listening, tell a friend.
Yeah.
Tell a friend. Tell a friend about the ecosystem approach and how much fun we all have removing negative energies, but also seeing some of the things that nobody else ever talks about.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing. Tell a friend, everyone.
So and with that, if you want that meditation, we're going to put the link to it on our newsletter.
Okay.
So if you want our newsletter, if you're not signed up for our newsletter, go to theecosystemapproach.org. It's all free. It's for our free section. and sign up for that newsletter. We just ask for your email address. We don't sell that email address.
No.
You'll get every week you'll get clearings that relate to the show that we did.
Right.
And if this is something that you think you want, if you want to have a more energy approach to your life, including traumas and everything else,
correct,
we talk about those things in the show. That's what we do this show, because we're teaching you how to take an energy approach to life as opposed to a programming one.
Correct. And I want to put in there, Jason, I don't think we've ever mentioned this, but we never ask anyone to do anything or even tell them about anything that we haven't experienced ourselves.
Yes. Well, and we created the ecosystem approach because we were doing this, and we did it. This is hard to explain, but we did it organically. In other words, we didn't go study with someone. We didn't read a book. You were naturally intuitive. I was told that I had intuition, but I didn't trust it. And we've developed these our intuitive ability, we call it refined intuition, and our consciousness, we call it evolved consciousness. And we don't want to be your guru. We want to show you how to be your own guru.
Correct.
And if that appeals to you, go to our website right now, theecosystemapproach.org, and sign up for a free section. Listen to our show every week. This is all free. It'll show you, it'll tell you how to apply energy in your life in many different ways.
Correct.
And I've got to admit something, whenever I choose a title,
yes,
there's always so much more than what's in the title.
Yes.
And the title is, sometimes it's even deceiving because, we start with one thing and then we get to something else. So it's always helpful. Our desire is always to be practical in terms of energy.
Yes.
And that's what we do. So go to our website, theecosystemapproach.org, and sign up. Listen to our show every week. Go to our Facebook page, theecosystemapproach.org.
Yes.
We have our videos are there, and you can like us.
Yes.
Please like us while you're there.
Okay. We'll connect next week, Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific and 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Transformation Talk Radio, and you're listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia.
Remember, your ecosystem is the most important one in the world.
Thank you for listening to the Ecosystem Approach Show with Jason and Patricia. I'm Patricia. Tune in every week as we discuss practical ways to apply the ecosystem approach and develop your potential to live your life on your terms. For more information, visit our website at theecosystemapproach.org.